technology stuff because they
Yeah.
can't freaking go to their own studios. Me and Chris are gonna have to look into doing something like this in the
I told
future.
him that. But we are officially live. Hey everyone, this is Matt again, and today I'm joined by Toby and Connor's here again from yesterday, and this is the first episode of Who Are They Final Buzzer. This is something that I've talked about doing with Nick, us expanding out into more than just movies and TV, but going on to sports and possibly music going forward and gaming, and we'll see how things go. But I'm lucky enough to have Toby here. Toby, I met him when I met Chris last year, and he's just a sports guy through and through. I know he probably considers the Schmodown as a sport as much as Chris and I do. And then Connor's just a Cleveland boy who loves his team. So I was just glad to be able to get him on here. But Toby, go ahead and tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Well, I want to start. I feel a little bad. I didn't know we were having a jersey party today. Otherwise, I would have threw a Pacers or a Colts on. Actually, the only Pacers I have right now, believe it or not, is Doug McDermott. I bought that at a Pacer game like a couple months ago because I wanted to be different. Everyone has Oladipo. Everyone has Sabonis. So I put on that McDermott jersey and actually wore it to New York a couple weeks ago, and I had so many head turns. Like, who is this dude? Like, where is he from? But yeah, I'm a senior at Indiana State University. I'm getting ready to graduate in May. I mean, I'm still technically a college student, but they kicked me off campus. So my day-to-day, college student life is officially over, which is kind of depressing. But I'm studying broadcasting. I'm trying to get into radio broadcasting. Doing something kind of like this professionally would be very cool. And thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all. Now, Connor, like I said, you're just a Cleveland boy who loves the sports. Tell us a little bit about your sports fandom.
All right. I don't know. I introduced myself yesterday. Director from the Akron, Cleveland area. I'm a LeBron fan, but I think the Cavs have a really good young core going on right now. You got KPJ going on. I think he's the most underrated rookie right now in the league.
But yeah, all right, fair enough. Well, today, or I should say, to the surprise of a lot of people, the NFL still decided to go through starting their league year last week, which not a lot of people thought would happen, especially with everything that's going on. You're having leagues shut down like the NBA and MLB shutting down, and it's like, oh, they're just going to push back free agency and everything. Everything's going to be fine. It's going to be good. But for some reason, they still did it, and here we are, and teams have been making moves. Especially one big move that I know we could all talk about easily was Tom Brady deciding to lead the Patriots for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I personally question the move a lot. I'm one of those people who still refuse to call Tom Brady the GOAT just based off of the fact that even when he was injured, other players were able, or suspended, other players were able to step up and perform just as well as him in that system. I'm a firm believer in that he's a product of Belichick's system, that Belichick is the real mastermind behind everything, and he could win with almost any quarterback. But that's just me. I will never say he was never a great quarterback, especially in that system, but you could tell the past couple of years that he wasn't the same quarterback that he used to be and that we were accustomed to. Even the year they won the Super Bowl, you could tell in that Super Bowl something was off. So I think Tampa Bay, while they do have this future Hall of Famer as their quarterback now, I think they should have stuck with Jameis, personally. But
that's a lot to take in. I will ignore the Tom Brady not being a GOAT. I mean, keep in mind, I am a Colts fan. There's a Colts blanket right there. I don't like Tom Brady as a person. I think the sketchiness going on in New England, throughout the years is still something that we need to talk about. But anyway, Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time. I mean, come on. He has like 5 rings now, coming back against the Falcons, 2-3 years ago, probably, the biggest point of his career. You can talk about systems all you want, but, he was the guy on the field actually putting in the work, and he got the job done. And I still can't believe that happened. 3 years later, I cannot believe that the Patriots won that Super Bowl against Atlanta. But in terms of you thinking that the Bucs should have stuck with Jameis is very interesting because I actually had a buddy who was the co-host of the sports show at ISU. He wanted the Colts to look at Jameis as a potential option at QB. And I just kept laughing in his face every single time he brought it up because Jameis Winston, not only did he lead the league in, I think, yards, and he was second in touchdowns, but he had the most interceptions, which is the most mind-boggling stat I've ever seen in my life. But I don't care how many touchdowns you throw, how many yards you throw for. If you turn the ball over, you're not going to win football games. And that was proven last year. They went 7-9, right? They were third in their division. I don't care how many yards you throw, how many touchdowns you throw, how fast you run, even as a mobile quarterback. If you're turning the ball over, you're not going to be successful. So I have no surprise that the Bucs moved on from him, but it is going to be interesting to see Tom Brady at 38, 39 years old now. How old is he? Is he 40 yet?
41.
41. Holy crap. 41 years old. He's going to be the starter in Tampa Bay. The only real person he has to throw to is Mike Evans. It's going to be very interesting to see, especially to your point, how Tom Brady has only been successful because of Bill Belichick's system in New England. If he can be successful in Tampa at that age, then I want to hear you talk about Tom Brady not being the GOAT, because if he can succeed in Tampa Bay with literally no one to throw to at that age, man, just give him the GOAT award now.
Connor, what do you think about Tom Brady?
It's going to be weird. I don't really want to speak on it until we see it. Because if you think about it, there's only been a handful of like big staples in sports that have like been a staple to one team, and then they move, and there's mixed results. Like you got Brett Favre going to the Vikings, you got LeBron going to the Lakers. See who else you got.
LeBron going to the Heat.
LeBron going to the Heat. You got Kawhi, going to the Raptors and then the Clippers. It varies on results. LeBron's been putting up good numbers the last couple years with the Lakers. He was at his peak on the Heat. Let's see. Was Favre? I don't remember Favre being good on the Vikings.
He took him to the NFC Championship, no?
Yeah, I think that was one season out of 2 or 3 he was there.
So, like I said, it's mixed results, and it just, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, you made a point that he only has Mike Evans to throw to, but you forgot about Chris Godwin. Apparently, he's fighting for Antonio Brown to be picked up, which I don't think Antonio Brown should ever play another down, but that's just me.
I agree.
But there's been people who thought the only reason O.J. Howard hasn't really panned out in Tampa like they thought he would is because he had Jameis as quarterback. So for a player like O.J. Howard, I think it might help him. But overall, like you bring up the Mike Evans and I brought up Chris Godwin, they're known for going downfield. Brady's arm isn't that strong anymore. Last year, you could see him struggle playing like that. He wasn't able to make those big downhill throws that he used to back when he was younger. And that's part of the reason I'm not sure this is going to work, because his arm right now is one of those ones where you just want to throw it on in routes, quick slants, all that. And if you're going to have him throw downhill, you're going to need a better running back to pull off play action, so you can pull off play action fakes, because Ronald Jones II isn't going to cut it. I mean, let's be honest. What has he done in his 2 years? So with that in mind, I'm really unsure how this is going to work. And is this going to be something Tampa Bay regrets? Because you saw how we all know how Brady acted in New England. He famously kind of forced Jimmy Garoppolo out of the picture, and Jimmy Garoppolo just took the Niners to the Super Bowl. They lost, but he still took them there. Granted, they didn't rely on him as much as they should have, but it is what it is.
I don't know if you guys saw this today, but it was something that was going around on on Twitter, and Bleacher Report was reporting on it, but they told the story that has happened the last 3 years in New England with their quarterback situation, right? So in 2017, when they beat the Falcons in the Super Bowl, their depth chart was Tom Brady, Jacoby Brissett, and Jimmy Garoppolo. And after that Super Bowl, GMs around the league were like, hey, like, you have 3 great quarterbacks, like, share, like, you don't need 3, like, help us out, you know? And so at that point, they traded Jacoby to Indianapolis, and they still had Tom Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, a year later, San Fran was looking at obtaining Jimmy Garoppolo, and they were having those conversations, and that deal was about to go down, and Bill Belichick said, hey, we'll be willing to give you Tom Brady as well. Like, we would rather give you Tom Brady than Jimmy Garoppolo. That was all Belichick. That was not Bob Kraft. Nobody else there was wanting to give Tom Brady away except Bill Belichick. He was considering giving Tom Brady away instead of Jimmy G. And I guess when Tom Brady found out about that, he was absolutely livid. Like, he was furious, like marching into people's offices, like demanding, like, you know, what the hell's going on here? And when Kraft found out about that, he called San Fran and was like, no, that's most definitely not happening. You're not getting Tom Brady. So they eventually, you know, gave him Jimmy G. And so I guess Tom Brady has been planning to leave New England since 2017. And so all this, you know, questioning up in the air this offseason about, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? Apparently that's been a done deal for 3 years. I just found that very interesting because I didn't know that. I mean, I knew he was mad. I knew that there was some animosity between him and Bill Belichick, but I didn't know it was this serious, and I didn't know that this was something he had been planning for quite a while now.
Well, going back to the animosity, I remember reading a story like a year or so ago when it came to the whole TB12 system and Belichick kind of forcing Brady's trainer out and referring to it as a cult and not wanting Brady's personnel there. So just having that be a thing, I was like, oh, okay, then that's interesting. And then you see how Brady's reacted. He's never really, especially the last 3 years as he brought up, he's never really gone out of his way to say much positive about Belichick since all that went down. And he'll, like, in post-game interviews after they won or something, yeah, coach put together a great game plan, because I did read that. I read part of that article actually, and I went back and I looked at some of the stuff. I'm like, yeah, he never really said anything too remarkable about Belichick after that. So that's a very good point. And I just don't know. Like, I get why he's getting paid because he is Tom Brady, but is 2 years, $50 million really worth it? Like,
it's worth it if you're Tampa Bay, who's been irrelevant for the past forever, right? I mean, for them to bring in probably the greatest quarterback of all time, it's going to bring in ratings. It's going to boost ticket sales dramatically, right? People weren't coming to Tampa Bay to watch Jameis Winston. Like, they're definitely going to show up to watch Tom Brady. If I was at Tampa Bay, I would be going to at least a couple Buccaneers games just to kind of get a sense of what could he potentially do in this system. I mean, it's curiosity. Like, I guarantee you, I mean, the season schedule had already came out, but if next year you might see Tampa Bay in quite a few primetime games. So that's going to bring the spotlight on them, on the organization, on the fan base. I mean, and if they're successful, they're successful. Like, that's going to benefit them in terms of, you know, winning football games. But even if not, they're going to sell more jerseys, sell more ticket sales, sell more hot dogs at the stadium.
Well, I also think what we're going to get out of this is like a LeBron leaving to go to LA situation, or LeBron or what's the other one I'm looking for?
Michael Jordan going to
the Wizards, or the Browns last year, where there's going to be a lot of hype, and then that first year isn't going to go as you were expecting it to. Because, like, we were talking about before the show, you brought up you had a weekly Browns radio show, and what was the purpose of it? Say it for the people watching.
So it wasn't a weekly. I have a weekly sports talk show at my campus radio station, and we had a segment every single Monday where we talked strictly about the Browns, and we would do a recap of the Browns football game on Sunday because of all the hype going into the season, mostly by the media, was really, you know, high praising you guys, and I didn't think it was deserving yet because y'all hadn't done anything, right? And so the idea for the segment was to just look back and say, okay, what did the Browns do this week? And we would, you know, give the good and give the bad. And it was just something fun for me and my co-host to do, kind of pick fun at them, but also, put a spotlight on them because they're a very young, exciting team to watch. But going to your point about Tom Brady doing this and, comparing it to what LeBron did going to LA, I think that that's the right comparison to make because Tampa Bay is a very warm place to live, and New England is not. LeBron was spending most of his career in Cleveland, which I'm sure you guys can say, this Midwest weather, it sucks. It's the worst ever. So him going to Tampa Bay, it's going to be warm. Right, it's a good place to raise his kids because he only has a couple more years left. And that could potentially be a place for him to, hang his cleats up and retire and live out the rest of his life. And he's getting paid pretty decent as well. So it made sense as a business decision going forward for the rest of his life, as well as the decision in terms of being a QB for the next couple of years.
All right, fair enough. Well, there's another quarterback that moved teams, and I know you're dying to talk about this one. So go. I'm gonna let you. We're gonna talk more about free agency right now, but let's talk about Phillip Rivers joining your Indianapolis Colts. I mean, another quarterback who was overpaid. I'm gonna just let you take care of this one.
All right, so this story starts last season, very beginning of last season, where Andrew Luck retires. Out of nowhere, it broke the internet. Probably the biggest breaking news story in the NFL, probably ever, if you think about it. A guy who could potentially be, a franchise quarterback in the league, a Super Bowl winning quarterback in the league. One of the most sought after talents coming out of college ever. And for him to hang it up just 5-6 years, in the league, it was something we had never seen before. We might not ever see again, right? I will never forget where I was. I was laying on my bed on my phone, and I saw a tweet. I think it was from Barstool. They made a joke about it, and I was like, "What is going on?" And then my mom came in the room, and she's like, "Did you hear? Did you hear the news? Is it true? Is it true? Like, what are they saying? What are they saying?" I'm like, "I don't know what's happening right now. Like, I'm usually very up to date on these things, but I hadn't seen any tweets from Schefter, not anything." And so I literally refreshed Twitter at that moment, just refreshed Twitter, and that's all anyone was talking about. Andrew Luck retires. Andrew Luck retires. And so I didn't have any doubt in my mind that it wasn't legit, but I was just like in shock because right above my bed, you can't see it right now, is an Andrew Luck fathead. And I just looked up and I'm just like, but why? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. But then the more I thought about it, the more I started to read about it, I'm like, I get it. The man was completely beat up. He was in pain. There was so much pressure, from the organization, from the fans, for him to come back and be healthy for the start of the season. And that just pressure became too much and the injury became too much. And he just didn't want to deal with it anymore. And I have no issues with him retiring. All the fans that booed him at that preseason game when he was leaving the field, I was absolutely disgusted at. I would never, ever in my right mind think about doing that because people were like, well, Toby, you probably would have booed too if you were in that atmosphere. I was like, hell no, that's not me.
You got to respect the player's decision.
That's exactly right. And so he retires, and so we go with Jacoby Brissett as our starter for the season. And I didn't know a lot about him. Most that I had ever watched him play was, a couple of snaps here or there during Andrew Luck's season where he was hurt because of that shoulder and broken ribs and among other things. So I didn't get to watch him play that much because I wasn't really watching the Colts that season because I knew that it was a dud season. So going into this last season, I was apprehensive about how I felt about the decision to go with him. I thought maybe we might try to pick up someone who's a free agent, or maybe even go with Brian Hoyer, who we had just got. But we decided to stick with Jacoby, and Jacoby impressed the hell out of me the first 5-6 weeks of the season. Like, I was blown away. He was accurate. He took care of the football. He was, I think, top 5 in QBR up to that point. And we were winning football games, but we were also losing football games because our kicker, decided to stop making field goals. And our kicker is Adam Vinatieri, who's the greatest kicker of all time. So there's just so many emotions, so many things happening last season. It was very hard to process. But he tapered off the last few weeks. He wasn't putting up good numbers. He started to throw the ball downfield more, which was nice because we hadn't seen it up to that point, but he wasn't accurate anymore. He wasn't hitting his targets. Ty was out, which didn't help because that was really the main guy that he threw to downfield. So just, many factors went into it, but, we ended the season on a very sour note with a bad taste in our mouths. And so that brought up the question, okay, what are we going to do going forward? And I was in the camp of saying, I think we should stick with Jacoby one more season, get everyone healthy and see what he can do in his second season as a starter. And then if it's not up to par, then okay, we move on. But then we started to hear, some whispers that we might try to draft. We had the 6th pick in this year's draft, and so people were thinking we might try to pick up a QB. And so that's what I started to think. I was like, okay, if we're not going to stick with Jacoby, then clearly we need to draft. Because in my lifetime, we've always had a franchise quarterback, Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. Obviously, both guys had their injuries, and we have seasons, of bad performances and bad endings because of having backups. But that happens. But, a fully healthy Peyton Manning, one of the greatest of all time. A full healthy Andrew Luck was potentially going to be one of the greatest of all time. So now they're moving away from that, and we have Jacoby Brissett. I was like, I don't want to just give him 1 year and then move on. I want this guy to maybe be our franchise guy because I believed in him, because he had performed the first 5 weeks of the season, and he looked good to me, and he looked good to the rest of the league. So we were starting to look at maybe drafting in the first round. And that's what I thought we were going to do. That's what analysts thought we were going to do. And then, 2 weeks ago, we trade our first-round pick for a defensive tackle. And he's a stud of a defensive tackle. I mean, DeForest Buckner, he's, all-pro. I think he was 2nd in the league in sacks last year, if I'm not mistaken. So dude's a stud, and I'm glad to have him on my team, especially on our defense that's, trying to get better and better. But that obviously led to us saying, okay, we're not drafting a QB, so we must be sticking with Jacoby. And then once again, the whispers became to come. Phillip Rivers wants to go to Indy. There's interest there. I saw whispers that we were looking at Derek Carr. And so I started to get very upset because I'm like, I don't want to become one of these teams that picks up, an old fart here. He has 2 years. We let him go, pick up another old fart. He plays a year. And then we go into average, play the rest of, my time as a Colts fan. I did not want to end up like, I don't know if you saw Denver just released Joe Flacco, and so now they have no quarterback. So I don't want to end up in that situation. And sure enough, we signed Phillip Rivers to a year and $25 million, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, the money is, we can talk about that all day, but I don't want a 38-year-old guy with 12 kids on my team. I just don't. I don't want it. He's not going to sleep. He's going to be up till 2, 3 in the morning because he's got to tuck all his kids good night. I don't want it. I don't want that. I don't want it. I don't want it. I would rather stick with Jacoby, give him 1 more year. And then if he's not up to par, then, we draft or we try to draft or we try to trade or whatever. But I looked it up before the show. Phillip Rivers as starting quarterback has a 54% winning percentage. That is about as average as it gets. Like, he is the definition of average, and the Colts have not been that my entire life, and I don't want an average quarterback. I just don't.
I mean, there have been a couple of years where they've been average or below average, so...
I mean, yes, but those were the years where either Peyton Manning was hurt, wasn't playing well, or Andrew Luck was hurt. Every other year, while full healthy Peyton Manning was going to the AFC Championship or going to a Super Bowl, a full healthy Andrew Luck took us to an AFC Championship or won at least a couple of playoff games.
Should have won the AFC Championship.
Yeah, should have. We're probably not going to make the playoffs this year. I don't think we will, because the way Houston played at the end of the season and the way Tennessee played at the end of the season, I still can't believe what Tennessee did. Like, someone explain to me how the Tennessee Titans did what they did. I just don't get it.
You mean give Tannehill over $100 million for what, 3 years or something like that? Yeah, that was pretty dumb, but not as dumb as Houston with the DeAndre Hopkins trade. I don't think you have to worry about Houston like you did just this past playoff. Wow.
Yeah, I still can't believe what Houston did. Like, oh my God! When I read that, that was again one of those double takes. I'm like, okay, who's playing with me right now? Like, who's trying to make their jokes on social media? But no. They traded away one of the greatest wide receivers in the league for nothing, for little pennies.
I mean, I went to school with a current NFL player who's on the Cardinals, so like that, and he plays wide receiver. So that move really breaks my heart personally. Like, I'm dumbfounded. Like, I'm just like, the Cardinals have so many wide receivers. I'm just gonna say that right now. But to add another one is just I know Cliff Kingsbury wants to run this air raid offense, but my God, do you really need DeAndre Hopkins? You still have Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, Hakeem Butler, Andy Isabella, and there's still like 2 or 3 receivers that I'm not even naming. The receiver I went to school with was Andy, and like, he was a rookie last year, and because of this style, I felt like he didn't get the play that because of the core of receivers they have, I felt like he didn't get the play that he deserved to get. Because I don't know if you watched Andy at UMass, but he was his final season, he played well against Georgia. He played well in the senior. Like anytime they had a big team to play against in his college career, Andy showed up for his team. So like seeing things like that were just like, wow, I can't believe that they're really doing this.
Can you imagine if you're Deshaun Watson and imagine you just took a nap, right? Just took the best nap of your life. And you wake up and you're on your phone, you're on Twitter, and you see that your team traded away your best
player,
best option to throw to.
And
in the world we live in, there's no way he finds this out before the rest of the world does.
No,
like these things get
none.
leaked out, before they're official. And I can just imagine Deshaun Watson waking up from just a bomb-ass nap and just like, oh, man, that was great. And then you look at your phone, you're like, I have no one to throw to now.
Yeah, it's just crazy what they had to go through. Connor, what's your thoughts on DeAndre Hopkins getting traded?
I don't really have any thoughts. Like I said, I've just now been getting into football, so I don't really have too many thoughts on it. I'm excited for the season because I know there's a lot going on. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna let you guys riff for a minute because I accidentally knocked my HDMI cord out of my computer, so I gotta fix that real quick so I can control the screen. But yeah, no, Toby, tell us what you think the most underrated free agent pickup has been so far this offseason.
I think that's tough because there's been so many moves, especially the Tom Brady one, the Phillip Rivers one has been interesting. But I actually want to say that the DeForest Buckner pickup was really big, right? Believe it or not, I hadn't even heard of the guy until the Super Bowl. I didn't watch San Fran that much. So I didn't know who this guy was until they really started scouting everyone before the Super Bowl. And then I see that we had picked him up, traded our first rounder away. I was like, okay, I need to do some research on this guy. And I looked it up and I was like, okay, this dude is an absolute stud. And I'm glad to have him on my team. But like I said, I know I went on a really long tangent and I apologize, but I'm glad to have him on my team because if our offense isn't up to par, then our defense is definitely going to be, because our defense has been pretty good the last 2 years. And picking up this guy is just going to do wonders for us going forward.
Yeah. Well, something I know I want to talk about, and this is something Connor can really talk about also, is you can argue that right now my Cleveland Browns right here, Cleveland, are the champions of the offseason for the second year in a row. Well, I'm not saying that's going to equate to a championship or anything or a Super Bowl, but this is the second year in a row they've had probably the best offseason in the NFL, and this time with a new general manager in place. So
they've been making a lot of moves. It's like every time Bleacher Report goes off on my phone, it's like a new, like the Browns signed so-and-so. I'm like, how many moves are they going to make?
To get Austin Hooper, who arguably is the best pass catching tight end in the NFL right now. He's played in a Super Bowl. I mean, and he's young, and I don't know about making him the top paid tight end. It's a little interesting to have that be a thing, but the way Kevin Stefanski uses tight ends, I'm not as worried about it because he runs somewhat of a West Coast style, and you're going to have the short passes and passes in the middle of the field, which is where you want your tight ends being. So to have him on one side, David Njoku on another side, and each of them being paired with OBJ or Jarvis just is something that I feel like is going to be insane. And and we still got Nick Chubb in the backfield. I'm really excited for this. I don't know what else they can do on offense, but I feel like besides fixing our line, and that's another move that they did. Oh my God, I forgot all about Jack Conklin for a minute. Jack Conklin, one of the best young offensive linemen in the league right now. The Browns were able to get him just like instantly, and I was shocked. It was one of the first things that broke that day, right after the Austin Hooper news. Toby, what are your thoughts on the Browns offseason so far?
I mean, I applaud you guys. I think you're making some good moves, but I'm really going to piss both of you off real quick. You guys are going to be dead last in your division next year.
I want to say dead last.
You're going to be dead last in your division next year, and here's why. I mean, the Ravens. I mean, we don't really need to speak on them. They're one of the best teams in the AFC right now. The Steelers, what they did without Ben Roethlisberger last year is something no one has really talked about.
Oh no, I will agree to that. No issue. They added Eric Ebron, but they've also lost one of their starting offensive linemen.
The Ebron thing's a little iffy. I mean, I watched him play for 2 years, and the dude can't catch anything, right?
See, I got a buddy at work who's a huge Steelers fan. He's like, "Yeah, we got Eric Ebron. That's what we've done all off season. Just watch. We just needed a tight end." I'm like, what?
Yeah, I mean, he had some good moments in his stint at Indy, but nothing to write home to mom about. And then the Bengals, they're going to draft Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow might be the next Andrew Luck, potentially. Obviously, we don't want to jump on that wagon yet, but what we've been looking at in college and just the way that he talks, he's so confident, man. Like the Cincinnati Bengals are getting a really, really good guy at QB. And I mean,
but they're an organization that doesn't care about winning.
I mean, I'm rooting for you guys, right? Out of every team in this division, I'm rooting for you guys. I'm just saying, looking at, what's going to happen in the future, what we saw last year, I think all three of those teams are better.
I can't say the Bengals are better because look at what they've done nothing so far this offseason. They've lost a few key pieces, and their line is so-so. Their line is like the Browns' line this past year.
Yeah,
I don't know if we're gonna be dead last. I mean, over the last 2 seasons, we've gone on like an upward trajectory, and we've only gotten better. I think this season is really we're gonna do at least better than last season. I'm not saying much better, but there's a possibility we're going to be better. A greater possibility that we're better than last season than worse.
So instead of 6 games, you're gonna win 7 games. Is what you're saying?
Nah, I'm like last year. I was that person saying 10 max. I'm looking at between 7 and 9 realistically, and we finished we finished 7 and 9 because we didn't. We finished 6 and 10. But yeah, we finished 6 and 10. But I think our schedule this year is easier than last year, if I remember correctly. And yeah, I get what you're saying with Joe Burrow, but realistically, who's he got to throw to outside of AJ Green? Eifert's a free agent.
Yeah, for sure. The Bengals are definitely the catalyst here. They're going to be the one to really look at. It's going to be between you two. Because like I said, the Steelers, I think getting Big Ben back with the beard and all, I think is going to be definitely good for them. And then obviously the Ravens. So that would be really weird to see you guys back in dead last after everything you guys have gone through the last 2 years. Like, I don't want to see it. I'm rooting for you guys, but it's going to be tough to see.
I mean, I'm trying to look up our who we played for this upcoming season because I want to go over this with you. So we play your Colts at home. And we're home, so I might have to have you and Chris come to that.
Oh, okay, yeah, bet. You're gonna have a hard time getting Chris to a football game. I can tell you that.
Man, we'll tell him we'll go to the Rock Hall afterwards or beforehand. Doesn't matter.
All right, sounds good.
You got the Eagles, who have gotten worse this season.
Yeah, it's a W. I think.
The Redskins, I'll say, are it can go either way just because we don't know what all they're going to do. And if they draft Chase Young, they got a monster on the D and our D line we're going to have to worry about. The Texans, we just talked about them. Bill O'Brien is one of the worst general managers / coaches in the league right now, and I don't really think they're going to be doing anything next year. You traded away arguably the best receiver in football. So, and we got our normal division opponents, the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Steelers. So I'll say we'll probably win 4 to 6 of the home games. The Raiders are the other team we play. I didn't mention them, but we beat them this year, if I remember correctly. Or maybe I'm thinking last year. We beat them last year, or we came close. I can't remember. And then away, we play the Cowboys. That can go either way, honestly. Giants. They're not doing much to improve. Jaguars, the team that lost basically both their starting cornerbacks. Their DN doesn't want to come back. They're relying on Gardner Minshew, and they still really don't have a receiving core. Jets, the Titans, and then, of course, Browns, Bengals, Ravens, and Steelers. It's not like the Browns have a hard schedule next year.
Yeah, you're right. And like I said, it's going to come down between you guys and Cincinnati. It's just going to see how can Joe Burrow adjust to an NFL, tempo and a system. And I think he can. And I think he will be probably Rookie of the Year next year. I mean, he's not really going up against much.
I'm a homer. I'm going to say Chase Young.
Okay. All right. I respect that.
He was. I'm sorry. Joe Burrow was the best quarterback in college football, but Chase Young was the best football player in college football this past year.
That's fair.
So I think that translates. I think he's going to have an easier time translating as a rookie, like most D linemen do compared to quarterbacks. And do you really expect Cincy to throw Burrow right into the fire from the get?
Absolutely.
I can see it, but you can destroy a rookie's confidence, especially like if he's not getting protected. Like, I remember part of the reason Andrew Luck got so beat up in his years leading up to retirement is because you guys didn't have a line. And of course, when you guys finally had a line, he was so beat up, he's just like, I got to call it quits.
Yeah, I don't like to talk about it, to be honest with you. Like, when we finally get the healthiest O-line we've ever had, he retires. It's like, come on, right? I haven't watched Cincinnati that much. I don't know how good their O-line is, to be honest with you. But I don't think I don't think that much is going to hurt Joe Burrow's confidence because he just is that confident of a guy. Like, I just love watching him talk to the media so much because he's just so high on himself. And I think Cincinnati's going to like that, and they're going to embrace that. And I think they're really going to throw him out into the woods and be like, all right, have fun, go. Learn it as you go. But we'll see.
Fair enough. All right. Now, there's some notable free agents still left. We talked about it a little bit beforehand. There's still Von Bell and Ndamukong Suh. Shit. There's just Everson Griffin, I mean. I'm trying to pull this list back up. Free agents. All right, but anyways, who's a free agent that you think could make? Oh, Jameis Winston, the biggest free agent of all right now. You can argue. Where do you think Jameis could end up going? Because that's something I was trying to talk about with a friend the other day. And when you look at the league, there's not a lot of open quarterback positions.
By what I was reading, I don't think he's going to be a starter, and I don't think any GM in the league is looking to him to be a starter. Again, which is very interesting because ignoring the interceptions, he was first in passing yards and second in passing touchdowns last year. And he's going to be a backup. Like, that's crazy.
And he got corrective eye surgery after the season.
Right? And I know my buddy who, like I said, I host the show with, he was saying, well, he's never played in a good system. Like, he was set up to fail in Tampa Bay. And I think there's an argument to be made there. But
Especially
I don't think
first
any
2 years.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think there's any team that is willing to take the risk right now to pick him up as a starter. I think picking him up as a backup would be okay. And then obviously he might get his chance, if someone, shits the bed halfway through the season, which would be really actually cool to see. Because I actually do like Jameis Winston, but it would be cool to see him succeed somewhere. Because, again, he was very hyped coming out of college at Florida State. And I was looking forward to watching him play for Tampa Bay. And then after a couple seasons, I was like, man, this guy's not very good. And you can't make an argument that he didn't have anybody to throw to when he had one of the best wide receivers in the league on his team. Yeah. So, again, the reports are coming out that he's not going to be a starter. I don't think he's going to be a starter, but I think he would be a viable number 2 option. I know that I made the joke that my buddy was wanting the Colts to sign him as our starter. I wouldn't mind signing him as our backup, to be honest with you. If Phillip Rivers isn't, cutting it and Jacoby goes in there and, maybe he's not cutting it or maybe he wants out now. I don't know. But having Jameis as a number 2, I wouldn't be mad at.
See, a story I saw suggested the Steelers could end up picking him up, which I think would be a brilliant coup in their defense because you could possibly get the replacement for Big Ben without having to draft anyone.
Yeah, and after we saw, what's his name? Who was the backup? They got his dome knocked out and who's potentially racist or potentially racist.
What's his name? I tried to forget his name. Oh, boy from Oklahoma State. Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph. Yes, that son of a bitch.
Connor, I know you got stuff to say about that.
Yeah, I don't know that the Steelers have so much. I feel like so much bad will that like that is like the last thing they needed.
Fair enough. I'd like to see him go to a team where he can potentially become that next quarterback, because you brought up out of college, Jameis had all this hype behind him, and I don't know if Toby's camera just frozen out. Let me do this real quick. There we go. He's back.
I'm back. Now I'm on the bottom. God damn it.
Now you started on the top. Now you gone to the bottom.
Okay.
But yeah, you brought up Jameis coming out of college was one of the most hyped quarterbacks ever, and now we just have where he is now. And to put him in a position that he never had in Tampa Bay, which is being able to maybe be behind a Hall of Famer like Big Ben and learn from him and then take over for him after the fact, that could be a big thing.
Yeah, he never really had any sort of leadership in Tampa Bay, right? Some of these rookie QBs come into a league and maybe they're the backup or maybe they're fighting for the starting job. They have somebody there to kind of guide them through the process. And again, not everyone has that opportunity, but a lot of them do. Jameis Winston did not have that. He didn't have that opportunity, and so he just kind of had to figure it out as he went. And like we said, that system may have set him up to fail. We still don't really know. If Tom Brady goes into Tampa Bay and just kills it, right? And, is leading the league and this, and they make the playoffs, like, then we would know, okay, maybe the system's a pretty good system and Jameis Winston's just not good. But again, if Tom Brady goes there and, he fails tremendously, you could argue, okay, that's the system's fault or that's the fact that he's, old as shit. So the many, many factors at play here in Tampa Bay, and it's going to be really fun to watch that play out this season. But another team I was looking at, maybe Denver. Denver just let go of Joe Flacco. So maybe that could be an option, maybe them picking up Jameis Winston and seeing how that plays out. But yeah, I'm rooting for him. I really am. It's just, he's just one of those that if he just could cut down those turnovers, he would be a starter on almost every team in the league. But he just really loves to throw interceptions. Like, it's his favorite thing to do. Like his first pass of the season, I believe, was an interception, and his last pass of the season was an interception and a pick six at that. So if he could just cut down those interceptions, man, if he could really sit down, I don't know what he did this offseason, but I really hope he sat down with the QB coach and was like, listen, this is what you're doing wrong. This is how you throw it to the guy on your team, and this is how you throw it to the guy on the other team. Don't do that. That's bad. So I don't know if that's what he did. I hope so. He's really got to figure it out.
I agree with you 110% there. And I think, and we have talked a lot about the NBA today, but not the NBA, the NFL. But and thank you for all your commentary, Toby. It's really welcome. I do want to talk a little bit about the NBA, because out of any sport, you can argue that they were the most affected, or they had been the most affected by the coronavirus so far. We were in the last month of the season, and now it's just gone in a flash. And Adam Silver's gone on record saying that this whole pandemic may have changed how the league plays their season from now on. They may have to change when free agency is, when the start of the season is, or when the All-Star break is, and everything.
Yeah, I'm still depressed. I haven't watched basketball in 2 weeks. Like, what is happening with my life? This doesn't make any sense, especially when things were starting to get very interesting, right?
I have no LeBron HD lobs in my life anymore, and it's bad.
The LeBron is MVP conversation that was just finally starting to start up, which I felt it should have been all season, is gone.
The biggest shame is LeBron was having like an insane season at what? He's what, 30?
36, 38, something like that.
It's 35 or 36, I'm pretty sure. And he's having like an insane MVP year.
He was leading the league in assists in his 18th season.
Yeah.
But Giannis is the MVP. No. Okay, I'll be
by the king.
Giannis isn't the king, but like I will give Milwaukee this: if Giannis isn't playing, they're horrible, and we've seen that in a lot of their losses this season when Giannis is like out for a game or so on. But I think for the Bucks especially, this whole thing happened at a great time because Giannis had just injured his knee and they didn't know how long he was going to be out. So, and there was a report just a little bit after we started this that the NBA is just, they are trying to make it the end of the season happen no matter what. The players here, NBA from ESPN, NBA owners and players hope to play the conclusion of the 2019-20 season no matter what. And I think that's good for the fans, but at the same time, if this ends up changing how everything's played and this, that, and the other, and when things are played, like what if we no longer get NBA games on Christmas? That's my favorite thing about Christmas.
Oh yeah.
What if the All-Star break now ends up taking place Easter weekend?
Playoffs when they come back. I mean,
right.
Only 20 games left?
Yeah, there's roughly like 15 to 20 games left, 1 month of the season. And how are we supposed to, as fans, cope with the fact that, and I'll bring up a comparison with the MLB. The MLB owners have said, like, yeah, Mark Shapiro was telling people that they're probably going to have a 1 month spring training when everything's back. The NBA probably is going to need a 1 month preseason to get back in the swing of things because we don't know how long this is going to extend to. We don't know how long this is going to go on for. And with that being the case, players might get out of shape. It is what it is. That's what happens. What are we supposed to do?
There's no way in hell that they are going to potentially end the season in mid to late August and then start the next season in October. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. You're not giving all the players a month, to spend time with their families. I know they're spending their time with their families now, which is awesome and great, but there's no way they're giving them a month official off season to get their, their shit together.
And how are you
get back
supposed to
healthy.
do the draft and free agency at that point?
It's like you either you just can this season, which I don't want to happen. Nobody wants to happen, but you can this season and then start next season off as you normally would, or you finish off this season and next season is just half a season. And it'd be like a lockout situation where the season's, cut in half. That's really their only options because there's no way they could have this season finish the way it would and then start next season. There's no way.
I mean, Connor brought up one of the most underrated rookies in the league right now being Kevin Porter Jr. And I honestly think that he was starting to wiggle his way into that second team, maybe if he kept playing how he was playing, first team NBA or all rookie teams. But I know I was just excited to start seeing Zion. We got like a month of Zion and then boom.
That's why I think this whole situation is actually most detrimental to the rookies.
Yeah, I'll agree to that 110%.
If the playoffs were to start right now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Lakers would play the Pelicans in the first round. We would have Zion versus LeBron.
The Grizzlies. It was Grizzlies and the Pelicans fighting for the number 8 spot.
Okay, either way, there was the potential for the Lakers and the Pelicans to play each other in the first round and have a series of Zion versus LeBron. Like the fact that we're not going to get a week before this whole fiasco started, LeBron and Zion played each other twice in the same week.
Insane.
And it was so fun to watch. And we were going to get a playoff series of that, and now it's probably not going to happen. Like, man, like I said, I'm depressed. Like, this is the worst. I can't even leave my house. Can't even play basketball.
Oh yeah, you're in the same situation as us. Lockdown starts at midnight, right?
Yeah, actually, my job is technically essential business, so I still get to go to work and all that fun stuff. Which it's so weird. Like, how are they going to enforce this? Right? Like, how are they going to make sure people are locked in their house?
In Ohio, they're giving people who work for essential businesses letters from their job to show up. So if you get stopped.
Are they going to pull everyone over who's on the road?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's one of those situations where how do you enforce this? We're not here to talk about our sad situations for work and whatnot. But then again, it's still the coronavirus. But we're all stuck at home, and I know right now I'm probably in the next couple days or so I'm going to take advantage of the NFL and NBA giving us access to watch the old games. Like you can watch games. I think it's like from 2010 to this past season for the NFL. I mean, I would love to go back and watch Baker Mayfield's first game as a quarterback, just because of how crazy that game was. Or in a sadder but still Browns win, the game where we avoided the 0-16 season, because I was at that game.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I got like tickets lower bowl, $25 a pop. And we were right at the field goal, right by the end zone where that happened, where the Chargers tried to rush on the field and get the field goal off, and they couldn't. And you would have thought that the Cleveland Browns won the Super Bowl that day.
Is that really something to brag about, though, that you were at the game where you guys didn't go 0-16? Like, that's
Cleveland,
something I would keep to myself.
In Cleveland, that's a bragging thing. I can't say
I relate to that.
I mean, you've had the Colts who go to the playoffs all the time. We're called the mistake on the lake. You should have seen how crazy Connor and I were going in our group chat when the Cavs won the championship back in 2016.
See, I've been meaning to ask you guys that.
World Series.
Oh yeah, we were downtown, Game 7 of the World Series, and when it looked like the Indians were about to lose, I hopped on. Yep, I left, and then that two-run homer happens, and everyone rushes back. Like we got them to, for example, we got them to turn the train around, the RTA train. We got them to turn the train around. Yeah, because how rare is it that everyone's leaving and this huge thing happens? Now, you said you wanted to ask us about the 2016 championship.
No, I've been meaning to ask you guys a lot of questions, honestly. My interviewer with me is coming out here. Just seeing you guys both from Cleveland and wearing Cleveland jerseys. I obviously don't want to go down the whole rabbit hole, but specifically, what were the emotions like in that whole LeBron decision? That whole atmosphere, that time. I've never got to talk to anyone from Cleveland about this, and I just really want to pick your guys' brains and take me back to that year when all the emotions are running high. LeBron, where's he going to go? That kind of thing. And then fast forward to when he went back to Cleveland. What was that like? Did you guys go to the party thing, the celebration thing? Did you guys go to that?
Yeah, well, in Akron? Yeah, I went to that.
He was lucky enough to go to that. I live. I could tell you exactly where I was for both instances. So in 2010, when he decided to leave, I was working at the score tower for my city, because I worked for the city in the summers at scoring the softball game. And I get the notification, get a text from my dad, LeBron's going to Miami. And and earlier in the day, there were reports from Chris Broussard and Stephen A. Smith that he was, but I'm like, he hasn't said anything yet. I'm not trusting it.
See, I wouldn't have went into work that day. I would have been like, nope, I'm calling in sick. I'm having a party. Like, where the hell's LeBron going? Like, I'm bringing nachos, pizza, everything.
See, I like being at the score tower, and I'm one of those people who I like being out of the house. So that's why this whole lockdown situation it's killing me right now.
I got you.
But when he announced he was coming back to Cleveland in that story, I remember I was at work again, this time at Discount Drug Mart, and I was working with Connor and I's buddies Nick, who was on with us last night, and I just screamed, "Fuck yeah!" And I was in the back of the store, like I was in our stock room, and I had a manager come in like, "I just heard you from halfway down the store. What's happened?" And I showed him my phone, and he's like, "This is the one time I'm not going to yell at you for being on your phone." But yeah, but yeah, that was that feeling. Winning the championship, I was at my uncle's bar, Scalpers, for the 2016 championship Game 7. My bar family and I we didn't even get seats. We stood in front of these TVs the entire night. And when it happened, we all just were jumping on each other. We fell on the ground.
On my couch. I was jumping on my couch, and then I sat in front of the TV and started crying. That is what happened.
Yeah.
That block, man, that won you guys that game and won you guys that championship. I mean, obviously Kyrie's shot was clutch as anything I've ever seen, but if that block doesn't happen and Iguodala lays that in, game's over.
Yeah.
Well, here, let me show you something real quick. I'm gonna move myself to the stream so I can readjust my camera.
You can't discount Kevin Love's defense that whole entire game. He showed like what he can really do when he's like actually playing.
That whole series, and the sad thing is obviously Kevin Love was part of the big three there, but people are always going to talk about LeBron and Kyrie. Kyrie's shot, LeBron's block, the way that they played that entire series. But Kevin Love does not get enough love. No pun intended. Like it's kind of depressing.
Zero love.
Yeah, but no, look at that. It's not the block, but it's one of the blocks.
Oh yeah,
from that series, and that's hanging above my wall. Over there, fell down right under where the second highest shelf of figures.
That's dope. But funny story. Whenever LeBron decided to go back to Cleveland, I was at home with all my siblings. My 4 brothers were here. We were watching the herd, and because we were trying to figure out where's he going to go, when is he going to announce it? There were rumors that he was going to do it that day, and we've been waiting, all morning. We watched the first 2 hours of the herd show. And my brother finally decided, he's like, hey, I'm going to take a shower. If anything happens, just yell through the door and let me know. I shit you not, he's in the shower for 5 minutes, and the letter comes out, and Colin starts to read the letter. And so when he says, like, he's definitely going back to Cleveland, I ran to the bathroom. I yelled through the door. I'm like, he's going back to Cleveland. He's going back to Cleveland. My brother runs out of the shower in nothing but a towel, and he's like, what is happening? I don't understand. What's happening? What's happening? And we told him, we watched, and Colin read the letter, and the rest is history, I guess. But I will never forget that story for the rest of my life. My brother running out of the shower, soaking wet in a towel because LeBron decided to go back to Cleveland.
I mean, there's very few things we have to celebrate in Cleveland. I mean,
you celebrated a 1-15 record. Yes, I can see
that. Exactly. I mean, literally, we celebrate a taco place. We celebrate the Rock Hall. We celebrate our horrible sports teams. And that's realistically what we got going for us. Connor can agree to that.
Yeah. I mean, Indy, if you think about it, all Indy really has is Peyton Manning and the pork tenderloin. That's in NASCAR. And that's it. That's literally it. Like racing is always going to be in our blood. I don't even particularly care about racing that much. Maybe I'm not a real Hoosier. I don't know.
See, but you guys got basketball. Yeah. That's like you said, you just said Hoosier. I rarely ever hear anyone outside of Indiana use that term.
Yeah, I guess so. Basketball is in our blood as well. I played my entire life.
I mean, the Pacers are always a playoff team, so
that's true. That's true. And I guess we have like the best win percentage at home, like ever. I think that might be a stat. Like we
had Reggie Miller for how many years?
We had Reggie Miller for a while. That's long gone in the past, and I hope PG and Granger thing. We really like people a lot. He plays. He's also a very good singer. I don't know if y'all listen to him sing. The dude's a freaking got pipes.
I mean, have you heard Kyrie Irving sing?
No, I've not heard Kyrie Irving sing.
It's good. Kyrie can sing.
I have not heard it.
Wait, you haven't heard? Wait, Connor, I know you saw Uncle Drew because we talked about it.
I have not seen Uncle Drew. I never saw it.
What? I liked Uncle Drew. It was fun.
Oh, so Toby, you've seen Uncle Drew?
Yeah, I watched it.
He has a song in Uncle Drew.
Does he? I don't remember that.
That song, Ridiculous, plays during the it's either during the end credits or when they're having the dance battle.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was him.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, like This is how much this is you brought up. You used to have all these old Colts players who are no longer with the team. I have a Deion Waiters jersey. I have a Tyler Zeller jersey. I have a Shaq jersey.
You have a Tyler Zeller jersey. That is amazing.
I was a big Tyler Zeller guy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cody Zeller, man. He was a Hoosier.
I can say that.
Man, don't get me started about that, Connor. How many iffy jerseys have you had?
None. This is my first jersey. I've never gotten into buying jerseys because NBA is my sport, and like the NBA, like you never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's honestly that's the sport you can never really guess on.
I think Kevin
Basketball in
Porter
general
Jr. is like, I think he's one of those underrated players that are going to come out of nowhere. Kind of like, how Giannis was. Nobody really paid attention to Giannis.
Well,
And then, like 6 years later, he's one of the best players ever.
well,
I think Kevin Porter Jr., give him a few years, maybe a little bit more than 3, but he could be a great player in the league.
I don't think I saw anyone denying that going into the draft. It was he had red flags around him about his maturity and
Well, yeah.
ability to stay healthy, and that's why he fell. And we just got lucky enough that Detroit was willing to give up a first rounder for 4 seconds and money. So,
yeah.
But I know we've been on for about an hour, so this has gone about the amount of time that I expected it to. But I want to thank you both for coming on. Toby, I know I talked to Chris, and we're gonna try to start next week doing a Schmodown one, just
Okay.
a Schmodown show.
Very
So
cool.
where we recap the past week's episode and preview the upcoming week's episode. I know we got to get another sports talk going on. We're trying to come up with a schedule. Me, Chris, Nick, just trying to do more of this, especially now since we're all like stuck in quarantine.
Yeah, we have nothing to do, literally.
What's better than making content? And,
yeah, for real.
And especially when it in a situation like mine and yours, where we're trying to build up resumes and give people things to look at to show we know what we're talking about. So, but thank you both for coming on tonight. Thank you for people who watched. Signing off. I'm Matt.
Connor.
Toby, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. This was the first episode of Who Are They? Final buzzer.